Now is the founder of iCAN, Israel-Cannabis, Saul Kaye. Saul, thank you so much for being with me. Israel, according to estimates by now, has imported more than 6 metric tons of cannabis flower. That's a lot.
That's a lot. It's a shame because had we been able to grow that here without the licensing hurdles, without the government intervention and the bottleneck, that would have been Israeli-grown cannabis as opposed to imported. But they did get the licensing right for patients, in which case there's been a large demand from patients to get more cannabis than the supply chain can supply right now. So it's a bit of a shame, but it's also a good thing.
Israel basically had no major imports at all before this year, before 2020. Now, all of a sudden, it's the biggest in the world. It's surpassing even Germany. How did this all come together so quickly, though, Saul?
Well, we've had a long history with dealing with patients here in Israel. So once it got more available, the stigma went away and patients are going to doctors to get a prescription and they go to their pharmacy to pick up a drug, a medication. There are a lot of hurdles have been removed. So we're very advanced in that on one hand. And, you know, there is a growth in patients, about 70,000 patients now get cannabis. A year ago, that was 20,000 patients. So we have to meet that demand. And a year ago, there weren't other countries that had legal cannabis for export, like Canada and the Netherlands. So that's all sort of progressed. So we're looking at, you know, the end of a 5-year tail of legalization in different countries that have allowed us to grow quick enough, but we're really not growing quick enough. We need to have a lot more patients in the program. There are still too many regulatory hurdles, but as you said, hopefully we can go to a legal market and anyone of age can enjoy cannabis, which is what should be happening.
Saul, you mentioned the Netherlands. I mean, with now there's it seems like we're very close to recreational use being legal. You know, the public support, even the lawmaker support on marijuana reform has hit a new high, and a lot of reforms have happened recently. How does Israel compare to the EU and other major European states when it comes to regulation and acceptance and legalization?
Well, they've announced, and you know that's the first step. The government has said we are going to do this, which is great. And now it's gone through one reading. It has to go through a whole bunch more of hurdles, and we don't really know what the landscape is going to look like. Who can operate dispensaries? How much can you buy? Where can you buy? Where is that cannabis grown? But I think it more follows the Canadian model, which is a push to legalize and generate tax revenue. That's the government's angle right now. 27% of Israeli population have used cannabis in the last 12 months. Wow, this shouldn't be illegal anymore. In fact, let's make it legal, tax it, and hopefully get you know, some tax revenue from what until now has been illegal activity.
Are you worried with the really worsening coronavirus situation, that the last votes needed in the Knesset, the final reading of this bill, that could generate a lot of money in tax revenue, will this be delayed? Are you afraid of that?
You know, the government is pretty good at once they announce they're going to do something, they generally do it, whether you agree with it or not. So I think they are going to make a strong push. Their 4-month timeline is not realistic. It'll take longer to get this sorted out. But, you know, hopefully by into 2021, we are looking at a legal landscape, which is, you know, it's crazy that people are still going to jail or getting tickets for cannabis possession in Israel. So, you know, this is a big shift. It's a big cultural shift. But Canada did it, and they did it quickly. Colorado, California, Oregon have done it. We're not leaders. We're not, you know, by any stretch the first to do this. We can follow some of the best practices that have been done in other places and hopefully get the program right. That's currently not what's, you know, proposed. What's proposed is the first step in a long step of programs that have to get modified. Well, for example, they're not allowing home grow of cannabis, and that should be a general basic of any program.
And eventually, though, I mean, Snoop Dogg might want to come to Israel. He's certainly promoting what Israel is doing in a positive light, and he has a big social media influence.
Well, I invite him to our next CannaTech when we go back to live events. But for now, digital is the way to go. And Israel has a spotlight on it for the medical research of cannabis that it's done for so many years. And it's time for Israel to be able to export to other countries, not just import to meet demand.
All right, Saul, thank you so much for your expertise. Great to have you on the program as we zoomed into this topic today. Thank you so much.